Thanks, Deputy Speaker. And I must admit, I can't believe the member for Page had time to pitch that MPI, because the amount of time that's been chewed up by the internal fighting in the National Liberal Party, I'm sure, has taken up a huge amount of time. But the absolute gall to accuse this government of abandoning regional Australia and hurting household budgets and businesses when the Nationals spend more time talking to each other and the media than they do talking to people in their local communities. And the last point that was just made by the member for Page, which was backed in by a bunch of people behind him, was so misleading, deliberately misleading the public on the issue of speed limits, because it was the previous coalition government that determined priority action number 1 was to review speed limits in rural and regional Australia. In fact, it was the former Deputy Prime Minister, the member for Riverina, who made the commitment. It was priority action number 1. The communique that was released following that has his name attached to it, along with a bunch of Liberal and National state counterparts. So I'm just going to table that. So when the Nationals are out there on some folly about reducing road speed limits has somehow got something to do with carbon emissions, please know the Office of Road Safety is following through with a priority action plan that was devised under your former government. And I know that might not seem important, but to us, telling the truth in local communities is important. The other truth that's incredibly important is that road funding has increased under this government. Not only has it increased for every local council across the country, we have increased road black spot funding. We have created a new Safer Local Roads and Infrastructure program. It means, member for Page, you might be interested, an increase in $461 million across councils in New South Wales, over $1.2 billion in road funding to every single council. And that's not some beauty pageant grant contest. It's money that automatically goes to every single council. No colour-coded spreadsheets needed. Every local council is getting more money for local roads than ever before, because we know how important it is to travel safely to your school, to your sporting events, to medical appointments, to work. Invite only. No. Roads to Recovery is for every local council. I suggest you read up on it.
Member for Gippsland, if you're going to continue to ignore me, you can leave. It's your choice.
I'm really glad to be here talking about regional Australia. I come from a small town. Right now, my husband, who employs members of our local community, is doing his job as a small business owner, providing services to people where we live. We have, over the weekend, made an incredible change where bulk billing came into effect for every single Australian, regardless of what your status is. Investing in bulk billing changes lives in regional communities. People no longer have to make a decision about whether they can afford to go to the doctor or not. For regional centres, this is very important. More than 1,000 GP clinics are signed up to the new program before it even started. There are 1,000 more clinics who are bulk billing communities right across the country. And I want to personally give a shout-out to Jindabyne Medical Practice, Bega Valley Medical Practice, the Goulburn Health Hub, who have all announced that they will sign up to bulk billing every person that comes through their doors. For so long, Medicare rebates were frozen by those opposite. What we're doing instead is supporting more doctors into regional, rural and remote Australia. Why are we doing that? Because it's really bloody important. Those talked about GP shortages but didn't do anything. Did they incentivise anyone?
Minister, I'd like you to withdraw.
I withdraw the word.
Thank you.
It is really important. Those opposite could have incentivised GPs to go into our regions, but did they do it? No. No, instead it took a Labor government to do that. On this side of the chamber, we've made the largest investment in healthcare in our regions ever. 90 urgent care clinics around the country, 31 already delivered in our regions. We're investing in rural medical schools to help ensure more medical students can train and live in regional and rural communities, because we know, and the data tells us, that if they train in our regions, they'll stay in our regions. There's a $90 million investment to help address healthcare shortages right across our regions. Incentives for doctors and nurse practitioners by waiving their HECS fees, as I said. Speaking of HECS, how are we helping more people to earn more and keep more of what they earn? Well, we're giving students across our regions a 20% reduction in their HECS bills. We're making sure that more people are eligible for tax cuts than ever before. 14 million taxpayers across our communities. And why do we want more people in our regions to keep more of the money they earn? It's because when they do, they go and support local small businesses, which is incredibly important. God. While those opposite are trying to work out which side of history they want to be on, we are talking about regional families and looking at how we can ease the cost of living. They're already upset, as I said, because we've doubled Roads to Recovery, while they sat idly by and did nothing when local councils asked for more money. What they did was freeze financial assistance grants, which took $1 billion from local councils in each of our communities. I want to remind them of what they did when it came to the Supermarket Code of Conduct. They introduced a voluntary code. I mean, that was great for our farmers, wasn't it? Let's ask the supermarkets if they'll be nicer to farmers. Were they? No. On this side of the House, we sat and we said that's not good enough, we're going to introduce a mandatory code. But what did those opposite do? Did they vote for a mandatory code of conduct for farmers? No, you didn't. You wanted to leave the supermarkets, let rip, do whatever they wanted to farmers and primary producers. On this side of the House, we said, not good enough. We are going to protect farmers and small businesses. So there's a mandatory code of conduct with multi-million-dollar penalties if they breach it. Big business versus farmers and families. I know who I stood with. I stood with farmers and families. I made sure there was a mandatory code of conduct to protect people. Investing in people, investing in skills and training, investing in services, these are the investments that regional communities are calling for, and that's exactly what we are doing. We delivered PRAC payments because we know it's important to support people when they are training to deliver services in our regions. Our Cheaper Home Batteries program has been so incredibly important. Ray from Braidwood in my electorate got in touch. He said his home battery system has already lowered his electricity bill. In the first month since he installed his battery, his bill dropped to $22. $22. High five, Ray. It's also really helped him to change his view and his habits on how he uses his electricity during off-peak periods as well. I want to make sure that we are supporting in this House regional communities, regional Australians just like Ray, and those opposite are fighting climate wars which should have been dead 20 years ago. They're out of touch with regional communities and they're out of touch with reality. And speaking of utilities, let's talk about the NBN, which is incredibly important for driving productivity in rural and regional Australia. Whether you work from home, whether you've got a small business, whether you want to access healthcare, or if you're studying, it's important to have connectivity. But those opposite, when they were in government, there was a deliberate underinvestment in communications. Instead of narrowing a technology divide, they widened it. It is so important to keep our communities connected. Just 15 minutes away from here, half of a suburb called Jerrabomberra has fibre to the premise. And when those opposite came to government in 2013, they ripped up the contracts and said, that's not important enough to us. So the other half of the suburb, for more than a decade, still was dealing with copper dropouts. And it took another Labor government to come back and finish the rollout. It took a Labor government to deal with the data caps that were on Sky Muster satellites. During COVID, I had members of my community who were trying to learn from home, trying to work from home, saying, we got 10 days into the month and we hit our data cap. Because those opposite had data caps on satellite plans. Does that make sense in a regional community? It took us to come to government and say, that's not on, we're not having that. There's been a massive investment to expand full fibre NBN to more than 2.1 million premises across the country. It is so important in our regions to make sure we're connected. And while I'm on it, universal outdoor mobile obligation. We went to an election to say this is incredibly important, the technology's there, let's make the telcos do it. Those opposite couldn't even get on board with that for regional communities.